And just to let you know, when we teach our classes online, we do this exact kind of thing. We record our sessions to make sure that anybody who missed a session could come and catch up later. We do a lot of our classes virtually, so this is kind of a common thing for us these days. So we are going to talk a little bit about computer science today. But again, if you have any questions, please just ask. Stop me at any point. You don't have to raise your hand, just interrupt and ask questions. We might as well have some fun while we're doing all of this, so feel free. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on in computer science. There's actually a whole bunch happening that's really interesting right now. So I just letting you know what we offer. So one of the options is we have 3 courses that students take. 2 of them transfer directly to schools like UW. So sometimes we have students who just come take 3 courses. I can give you the numbers, it doesn't really matter, but CSC 110, 142, 143. And those 2 courses, 142 and 143, transfer directly to UW and to many other courses. So sometimes people just show up to take some courses with us. We're glad to have them, but sometimes they come and get a whole associate's degree. We have 2 associate's degrees that transfer as a block. So one of those degrees is meant for people really aiming at UW, right? Because that block is sort of targeting that audience. And then we have another one that usually is better for transferring to some other schools. So our advisors will work with you to figure out where you're going to transfer, which of those 2 transfer associate's degrees are best, and then you can aim at that and start fulfilling those requirements. So we'll talk a little bit more about those. We also do have, though, coming starting in fall 2022, a Bachelor of Science degree. That's a new thing, right? We don't have any of those right now. This will be a Bachelor of Science in computer science that's offered at North. So you will get a Bachelor of Science degree. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go too. The nice thing here is that you don't have to have any programming prerequisites to take our course series. You do have to have a little bit of math, but it's not excessive math. You do need to have intermediate algebra in order to study our first programming course, and then we do require a pre-calculus course in order to get into our other 2 courses. But you don't have to take calculus. It's no other excessive math requirement in order to get started with our courses. So if you want more information, there's a link here on the screen. You can take a screenshot of it if you want to see our programs and sort of the layout of what you might take. So again, if you have any questions, please let me know as we go along. I'll move through these slides so that we can get through them, but please stop me at any point. So anybody have questions so far? Just let me know. Anybody? All right. All right, so we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different pieces of how this stuff works and where, what you might do with this degree. One is destinations. Our 2 transfer programs will go, as I mentioned, to UW or many other schools. So it is a great starting point, and of course, at a great price, because our education will be far cheaper than it would be in a lot of other places. So a great starting point for transferring into a lot of universities into a computer science program. That's the destinations part. The faculty, I'll just let you know, I'm one of the faculty members, but we have 3 full-time faculty members, lots of industry experience, lots of teaching experience. So we hope that we can bring a really good experience to you in terms of education. We'll also mention later, our class sizes are really small. If you take our CSC 142 class, for instance, where usually classes are no more than 28 students, sometimes 1 or 2 more, but 28 is sort of our maximum cap. If you take that same course at UW, you're going to be in a class with potentially 1,000 students. And if you have any interaction, it's going to be with teaching assistants. So the ratio is really good. The one-on-one time and the ability to interact with your instructors directly is really, really good at one of our colleges. So we have a lot of other interesting things going on. We try to give you real world projects that help you prepare for the world. They are not silly academic projects, but real ones that will give you experience that will be useful when you go to interviews or when you go out to the world. We have a very active computer science club. And so these folks are helpful in presentations that are useful and timely to you. They provide tutoring sometimes. They have events where you can mingle meet other people, learn about really important things going on in the industry. A very, very vibrant and active computer science club. They're also a Google developer student club. So they do activities that sort of plan for and work with Google in terms of really preparing for real scenarios. So that's great too. Job prep, of course, is a big deal. We want to make sure that when you get out into the world as a coder, as a programmer, that you are well prepared, right? That you feel like you're stable and solid, that you get a great foundation of knowledge that you can use to move forward into the job market as well. The other thing that's interesting about our programs is we offer a whole bunch of modalities to try to give you options for learning. So when it comes to modalities, some of our classes are going to be in person. For instance, in the fall, I'm teaching CSC 110 in person, CSC 142 in person. Some of our classes are virtual, right? So, and you may have options. And some of our classes are purely online. So if you just can't meet, it's not a thing that you want to meet with either virtually or in person, you can also take online classes. So we try to offer a variety of these things so that we can meet the demands of people who are working and busy and have lives that just aren't convenient for showing up to a place at a specific time. So lots of modalities offered the most that we can. We try to make sure that you have variety. Okay. So as I've mentioned, our classes are almost all taught by full-time faculty. So you usually get some skilled people in the classroom who have lots of experience teaching and some industry experience. I worked at Microsoft, by the way, so I'm trying to bring some real-world stuff to what we study there. Our classes are small. The modalities I mentioned already about trying to offer you a variety of ways to learn. And then I also want to underscore the real world programming projects. And I would like to show you a little bit of what one of those would look like. Now, this is a project from our third class in the series, so it's a little more advanced. So I'm going to bring this over here onto your screen so that you can see it and just show you one of the projects that I have assigned in the past to my more advanced students. So the topics that are used here in this project, there's going to be some math, some geometry, obviously, to make these things work. This is a graphical user interface that we have created. This course uses Java, so we're using Java to create this graphical user interface and also to create this attractive output. We are using fractals, right? We are generating fractals, which is an interesting thing that uses recursion. If that's a term that means something to you, great. If not, that's okay. We would study it as we go along here. We are using some really cool, more advanced communication between these two pieces, between the GUI and the output. And so I just wanted to show you some of the cool things that some of the students may be creating. Some of this is extra credit, right? So I'm showing you the basic pieces first, and then I'll show you the extra credit. One of the extra credit pieces is that as I move the things in the GUI, the graphic responds. So one of the things that I can choose here is how far out to go. So starting with this center circle, how far out are we going? So this is a recursion depth of 2. That means the big circle and only one more, 1 and 2. If we go to 3, that means that we have 3 levels, bigger bubble, smaller bubble, and then smaller yet. And you can keep increasing that. We also have the ability to make the ratio between the children and the parent a different size because that's kind of cool, looks interesting. And we can also change how many children each of the bubbles has, right? So here's 1 child, 2 children, 3, 4, etc. There's 5. So all of these are part of the core project. The extra credit is that when you move these little sliders, it automatically responds and regenerates the drawing at that moment. We also have the ability to choose the color. So it brings up a color chooser and I can say, yes, I'd like my bubbles to be hot pink. Thank you very much. And now, of course, as I play with these things, I can see the bubbles of different colors. I can play with all these ratios and we can make some really interesting diagrams as we keep playing, right? So that's most of the core part of the project. We also have some extra credit pieces. One of them is a thing that I call random pastels, because when I think of soap bubbles, especially, you think about anime and soap bubbles that you might see in anime, Yeah, soap bubbles have kind of a sheen of some pastel colors that kind of appears. So my idea was maybe the bubbles have these kind of pastel colors. You also notice that they're transparent, so that makes me think of anime a little more. And they also have this little shine, this little reflection arc, so that again, that makes me feel like, that's sort of what an anime bubble would look like. So that's the core of the project, which I think is fun. And that's the last project in our 3-course series. The other piece is that we have a way to introduce some chaos into this world. So the bubbles can be a little bit wonky, which is more like maybe you might see in the real world. Instead of all the bubbles being perfect, maybe there's a little chaos introduced here, which might be kind of fun as well. So that's just an example project that gives you an idea of where we would be aiming, what we would be able to do with the more advanced courses. Anybody have questions about that project? You can put them in the chat, or you can just ask them on the microphone. So let me pause for a minute. I'll take a drink so that you can have a chance to ask any questions that you might have. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Not at the moment. Okay. All right. So wanted to tell you, again, give you a very clear picture of what your pathway might include should you choose one of our degrees. You can start the course sequence anytime. So you could start in the fall, but also winter, also spring, also summer, right? You could take these courses at any point, and they don't have to be taken right in order. So you could take one, for instance, if you decide you want to kind of try it out, maybe you have a little bandwidth in the summer, you could say, hey, I'm going to try it in the summer, try CSC 110 and see how that goes. And then if you like it, you can take another course, either the quarter after, 2 quarters. You can skip quarters, so there's no rule that says it has to go boom, 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 right in sequence. Some of our students are part-time, some are full-time. And so often we offer courses at night because we know that that is often useful for students who are working full-time so that you can participate in our courses at night. Those 2 transfer degrees, those things are going to be about 90 to 93 course hours. So they are full, but we do suggest a pathway for full-time students and also for part-time students. So if you have questions about those, there's a link here that can help you learn more about what courses would be involved, and a recommended sequence. Doesn't have to be perfect, but a recommended sequence that might make sense for you. The other thing is, as I mentioned, in the fall, we are starting a Bachelor of Science degree in computer science. So that will require our 3-course sequence, right? That will be the starting point for it. But interestingly, you don't have to go take more math. So this is a very rare program in computer science that doesn't require you to take calculus and physics and some of those more advanced kinds of math and science courses in order to complete your degree. We're still working on that. We haven't gotten official approval, but in the fall, we are fully intending and on track for starting those programs. So if you're interested in those, I can give you a little bit of information or point you to some folks who would have a little more info. Okay. So the other thing is here, if you want jobs in computer science, we know that the demand for computer science jobs, for programming jobs, is very high in our area and around the country, around the world. Everybody needs good programmers. We can't produce enough programmers in schools to fill all the jobs, so there are jobs out there and available. There are broad sectors because programming is part of everything. You can go work in the insurance sector or the medical sector or working in database areas in different companies. So, and plus, of course, there's the big companies that focus on social media and applications. So jobs are very plentiful in this area. If you get a good degree and you've done well in it, you can get a job. The salaries are generally over 100 grand to start. So I don't want to tell you that it's easy work, but if you love programming like I do, then you'll love it, right? Then it's work that you will really enjoy and you will be able to dedicate yourself and really apply yourself in learning about and then working in these fields. So, good salaries, lots of jobs available, and in very broad sectors. That means that if you bring other interests in, right, if some of you have sort of maybe medical interest, there might be a niche for you to work in programming in conjunction with medical. Or, if you have other business experience, you might be able to bring that. And so your skills and what you bring to the table will also help you find jobs that are useful. Okay. So all of those things are there for you. But I also want to just give a few minutes for you to ask any questions. If you have things that you would like to know about our courses or our programs, anything else that I can tell you that would help you to know what to do next if you're interested, I am here to answer those questions with you. So what questions can I answer for you? Just let me know, please. You can put them in the chat if you'd like. You can say them on the mic. You can ask them in English. You can ask them in Spanish. That's about as far as I go in terms of fluency. What questions can I answer for you folks? All right, nobody has any questions. All right. Well, if you think of some, you can email me. My email is here. I am the computer science department coordinator at North Seattle. So you can find my email here or my office phone. Email is kind of an easy way to find me. So if you think of something, you have questions, you're interested in taking one of our courses, of course, all of our catalogs and course schedules are online, but I am glad to talk with you if you need some specific things answered. We are excited to welcome new students. So just let us know how we can help you to figure out, what to take, when to take, and all of that stuff. So thank you so much for being here. And I hope that that gives you some great information moving forward on some potential areas of study. So if you want to stick around and ask some questions, I will stay here for a few minutes to wait. Otherwise, thank you again for being here. And if you want to pop into one of the other rooms, or of course, there are more sessions on other days. So we welcome you back to those sessions if you want to learn about that. So thank you very much for being here. Stick around if you have questions. Otherwise, take care and be safe. And I hope to see you in one of our courses someday soon.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Renata. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Bill, this is Luis.
Yes, Luis, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good.
I have a question. I'm working here in Seattle on a temporary project at Amazon, right? So I see that at Amazon, there's a bunch of stuff with Python. So I heard that on some of the courses that you already explained has some modules, sorry, about Python. So my question is, one of those modules can help me to understand the basics and maybe sometime later to get a mid-level, experience or development for that kind of language.
Yeah, exactly. What we do is in our very first course teaches programming through Python. So okay. While it's not fancy Python, it's the starting point, right? And so that's how we start our learners off in Python. And Python is a good language to know. It's a common scripting language that you may see at various companies. So we do teach that first course in Python, which would be a great place to start. And then you can continue learning Python or other languages. Now, we don't have more Python courses right now, but once you have the basics, then you could start learning on your own and going in different directions and learning more things. But it is a starting point that is focused on Python, right? So our whole first quarter is Python.
Oh, okay. Question: what's the tuition? The tuition for each course, or how it works?
That's a great question. I don't know that number offhand because as an instructor, it's not something that we usually deal with.
Okay.
But certainly find that or point you to somebody or find it on the website to tell you what it is. but I will promise that our tuition is going to be as low as anything else you're going to find.
Okay, I mean, it's affordable, right?
Affordable, and we have a lot of scholarships available through the Seattle Colleges Foundation, right? We have all sorts of ways that students can apply for, different kinds of scholarships that help, different kinds of groups of people. So very often our students can get scholarships, which can also reduce that burden.
The cost.
So,
Okay.
so yeah, we are a good place to look for some assistance as well. And it's not always it's not always based on economics.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's based on just applying for a deal, right? Applying for a scholarship. And sometimes we have scholarships that are focused on STEM. Sometimes we have scholarships that are focused on women in tech. Sometimes we have scholarships focused on, certain underrepresented groups. So there's money, right? We have money that doesn't get requested sometimes. So I would encourage you to not only look at the basic tuition, but also to realize that there might be some help for you as well.
All right. Last question. This course or this module that it regards the Python structure and all the information.
Yes.
This is a part-time or is a full-time schedule or what's the schedule?
Yeah, great question. It's one course.
Okay.
So it would not be full-time. It's just one course. So you would be, it's a 1/4 course. It either meets for 5 hours a week or less, right? Often it's less hours than that. And you can take it either purely online, right? So if you don't even want to show up to class at all, you just want to work at your own pace and then have interaction with the instructor, once or twice a week, or you can take the course in person if you or sometimes we offer it virtually, so you can show up on Zoom, right? So you usually have options, but it is just one course. So the maximum that it would meet would be 5 hours a week.
Okay, if I chose in person, it is in the afternoon, it's in the morning.
Yeah, usually that particular course is often in the morning, but
okay.
Yeah, and then usually we have we have usually an online class and a virtual class and a daytime class. So you can sort of pick between those 3 ways. I teach a lot of them virtually these days because students seem to like it. So I spend up to 5 hours a week with students like this, right? In these kind of sessions where we do work together, we break out into groups, we get to talk with each other, and it's just me and whoever is here, right? So it's a small enough group that we can really have a lot of interaction and really teach you.
All right.
In rare cases, as I mentioned, I also will hold office hours on request. There have been quarters where we have a small group of students who speak other languages, and sometimes we can do a special session for those folks. That may not apply to you, but sometimes we get a really interesting group and we can do some cool stuff just in small groups, right?
Okay, understood. All right.
With us,
perfect.
It's for me, it's sometimes office hours en español, right?
Okay.
So we can have some fun where some students say, I'm trying, I spend too much time translating in my brain. So I just want to get it out in Spanish. I just want to ask the questions in Spanish. And so that can be fun. I only speak Spanish and English. So,
nice.
But sometimes, platicaremos en español.
Okay, gracias.
That is sometimes just a little fun added thing, right?
Right, yeah. Okay, Bill. Well, pues muchas gracias. Yo soy de México.
¿De México? ¿De dónde?
De la Ciudad de México.
De México.
Sí.
Yo crecí en El Paso, Texas, cerca de Ciudad Juárez, entonces.
Oh, ya. Por eso tienes mucha familiaridad con el idioma. Ok, Bill. No, pues muchas gracias por toda la información y voy a buscar en la página lo del tema del costo y también ya me estaré poniendo en contacto contigo.
Gracias, y si tienen más preguntas, tiene aquí mi email.
Sí.
O puedes llamar, pero email es muy fácil.
Mejor. Sí, claro que sí. Perfecto. Bill, ¿verdad? Bill.
Sí, Memo, Guillermo, Bill, lo que sea.
Ok. Muchas gracias, Bill.
Gracias, Luis. Mucho gusto.
Mucho gusto. Hasta luego.
Espero verte.
Sí. Sí estoy interesado en aprender Python.
Ok.
Yo estoy trabajando en Amazon en un proyecto temporal, y ahí desarrollo muchos scripts
Sí, sí,
basados en Python.
sí.
Bueno, les llaman workflows, que básicamente son scripts.
Sí,
Y sí tengo interés en aprenderlo para poder yo, pues, desarrollar mis propios scripts.
sí.
Todo ya ahora es automatización.
Todo, sí. Todo el mundo, ¿no? Es
Todo el
algo que
mundo.
uno debe aprender
Ujú.
por la vida.
Claro, sí, sí, y como lo mencionaste ahorita en tu presentación, precisamente el programar, el saber hacer coding está muy demandado, o sea, y bien
Y
pagado.
en todos campos,
Sí,
sí,
sí, sí, sí.
donde sea, siempre hay código, ¿no?
Correcto, correcto. Muchas gracias, Bill. Estamos en contacto.
Gracias de nada y nos vemos, ¿eh?
Sí, pronto. Hasta
Suerte,
luego.
suerte, Luis.
Gracias.